Oh, she might have clicked on the bottom link. Yeah.
Okay, it's live now, I think. Okay, it looks like
Oh,
we
she
are
might have she might have
live.
clicked on the bottom link. Yeah.
Okay, it's live now, I think.
Oh yeah, it is. I need to turn this on.
Yes, we're live. Also checking. Yeah.
So, welcome everyone to the Warriors of Light portal. And we've got a beautiful roundtable discussion happening today. And we've got 6 beautiful guests and myself. We've got one woman who's just having some techie trouble. Hopefully, she'll be with us soon, Karen. Otherwise, the topic for today is embodiment practices, grounding in these times of the Great Awakening. So it's a very potent topic. It's a topic very close to my heart. I run a feminine embodiment training for women that goes for 10 months, and we do various levels of dropping into embodiment. And so some of you are very familiar with what it means to be embodied, what embodiment practices are. All of the women talking in the roundtable discussion today are experts in their field of embodiment. So we're going to be uncovering what is embodiment and how can we use these practices in today's times. It's an intense time, we all know that. We're all journeying through big energy at the moment, you know, and there's a great shift and newness that will come from these tricky times. So I'd like to start us all off with introducing each one of us. Maybe just a couple of sentences of what it is that you do, why you're speaking about embodiment, and what does embodiment mean to you?
Thanks for that, Zoe. So I practice embodiment. Only just recently I've started Kundalini yoga. So from my perspective, I'm speaking to mothers who are trying to find ways to be more in their body and less in their head. So myself and my children, especially my youngest, my 4-year-old, he is so grounded, and he teaches me how to be more in my body, which is, he's a fascinating little human. So embodiment to me means trying to sort of scan where you're feeling pain, or where you're holding onto certain feelings that you need to release. So for me, that could be swimming in the ocean. I love being by the ocean. It's just, there's something about it that's so tranquil, but the energy in the ocean is so intense and so massive that we can't even fathom, you know, that energy. But we can also harness that by just being with ourselves, like slowing down, being still. I love nature walks. Meditation is huge for me as well. My children often breathe. They have their own breathing technique when they're trying to breathe through pain, which is, you know, not just a slap of a Band-Aid or get a Panadol or something. It's more or less just tuning into your body and knowing that we can heal our bodies are amazing. You know, we can heal our own bodies if we just take the time to innately listen and understand where these symptoms are coming from. So, you know, our body's like a dashboard. So if you're getting a headache, you're always in your head. Stop being in your head and being in your body, you know, having a good laugh and just dancing, being childlike, you know, finding the passion and the fun, enjoying everyday mundane things. I used to wash dishes, as we all do. I mean, I don't own a dishwasher, but sometimes before I used to think, oh my God, these dishes are so annoying. And then I'd be like, okay, thank you, dishes, for holding my fruit salad today, you know, just practicing gratitude and just being like, thank you, and then giving it love and putting it away, like trying to change that mindset to embody more of gratitude and, you know, peace and harmony, and yeah, passing that on to our children and having that same sort of energy. So yeah, that's my input for the moment.
Thank you, Jo. And I just want to officially welcome Karen, who's joined us as well. Hi,
Thank you.
Karen.
Hey, Karen.
Hello.
So we're just basically introducing ourselves, how we're connected to the practices of embodiment, and what embodiment means to us.
Okay, excellent.
Started with
Would you like
Jo.
Would you like
So
me to
just
go
when you're
now?
ready.
Yeah.
If you're ready.
Okay.
yes.
Well, I had an interesting situation happen, and it was a good practice. So yesterday was the Lions Gate. It was my birthday. It was an amazing day. Today it was all felt funky. I walked into my workplace and there's 14 staff here in our 3-story building, and a couple were happy, the rest were all funky. So I've gone, right, I need to get out of this funkiness and, work on this. So I came and grabbed a big sage stick and went right through the building. And I live at a few minutes walk from Newcastle Harbour. So I walked down to the harbour and I connected, and I made an actual meditation video that went for 4 minutes and 44 seconds that I'll share on here later. Again, just more tools, to help us connect. And one of the practices I love is first thing in the morning, just sunrise and sunset are powerful for me. So taking that time to really connect with ourselves, with spirit and source and nature, that pillar of light coming through us. And it makes such a huge difference to do that each morning, to really get ourselves set up for the day. And someone shared the other day that, I think it was Sandra Bullock or something, it was a meme that said she said that we should always start our day dancing. So that's another good way to connect. But it was amazing just remembering that, I could have stayed in that funky, really wacky, like the, wheels were wobbling space, or I just go on, what do I need to do? What tools do we have? And our children, it was beautiful to hear that message before about reminding our children. I was teaching my grandsons this morning about gratitude and playing a gratitude song by Karen Drucker as I took them to school. And then I thought, well, I could probably, teach them more about that and now add, what are we grateful for in our lives? So, be more of this whole opportunity is pushing me back into using my tools, as I'm sure it is for all of us, and using those tools that we have. But instead of them sitting way out the back there in the back seat of the wagon, they're all, closer to us. It's bringing them in closer to us, reminding us about them. And I felt amazing. I made 2 videos actually down at the waterfront, watching the light glisten on the water. Came back really feeling really connected and empowered and back in my space, and also cutting from everybody else too. Where as empaths, we're just taking on. My friend said I'm like a sponge, so I just take on everything else. But remembering, to tune into ourselves and go, is this mine? If we're feeling out of whack, because a lot of the time it isn't, and it's good to remember that. Just to, So that's my little 2 bobs worth for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Beautiful.
I might go next, actually. I want to follow on with dancing, since you brought up dancing. I'm a 5 rhythms teacher, an embodiment mentor, and a dance movement therapist. So for me, embodiment is very much through dance and movement, which I've been doing since I was 7 years old. I think I've just come into this lifetime to work with dance. And the dance that I offer is about dancing from the inside out. So it's helping people connect with their inner movement. And it's just the most brilliant tool to get us out of our head into our body and into being embodied, because, we have come from a very mentally orientated state, and we're trying to come back into our body, into our heart, into our soul. And I think embodiment is all about coming into our wholeness. And so, I find dance is just the best way to come into embodiment. And I think that's one of such a big problem now, is that a lot of people who come to my classes and workshops, they're in their heads and they're just wanting to find that place inside. And, whether it's your soul and your heart, and these practices are so good for that. So, I can't live without embodiment. And I think especially, because we're doing so much work, even going in the more cosmic realms, embodiment in fact, I just love the way how the word embodiment has become so popular, in recent times, because we're needing to be in our body and, coming out of that more mental state and coming into the body and the heart and the soul. So yeah, dance is a great way. And for me, embodiment is really about feeling at home in yourself and finding that sanctuary within. And I think a lot of this new awakening is all about sovereignty and finding connection, more connection to ourselves, less from the outer world that we've been involved in. And really, embodiment helps us connect with our true self. And I think that's what we're needing in these times of awakening and connecting with our own light and voice, is that sense of, how do I find myself inside? And personally, I think embodiment is the way into that. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, Michelle. And you can
Yeah.
feel as you speak, you're speaking from, years of wisdom of moving. And like the five rhythms is such a practice. I think I came across it feels like about 20 years ago. Like, it's been around for such a long time, and
It
and
has.
really paved the way for so many of the conscious dance movements.
Yeah, I like how you've mentioned that, actually, that five rhythms. I mean, conscious dance is a huge movement now. And five rhythms, and Gabrielle Roth, who founded the five rhythms, is the pioneer of that, really. She almost started that idea of dancing, ecstatic dance, which has now become a whole movement with so many different. So thank you for mentioning that.
That's
And
right.
basically it's simply a beautiful, simple map that takes you through a wave of energy that inspires you to do your own movement, but through this wave of energy. And it just helps you really easily disconnect from the mind, or allow the mind to dissolve and to relax and come into this wholeness. So, and my chapter is about my journey in my whole lifetime, about how I've worked with dance to connect with our essence and light. And that's what I've written about. So yeah, I'm very excited to be in this container. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. So, anyone else like to introduce themselves? What's called them to embodiment?
Yeah, I will. So I'll just follow on from what Michelle said, from the inside out. I'm Karina, and I'm an art therapist and a yoga teacher. And as Michelle was saying, dancing or moving from the inside out, when I run my workshops or when I paint, in particular, when I paint, my paintings, my artwork, my creations come from in here. And I almost feel like they're an extension of my heart. So my heart extends out through my arms and into my brush. I found my brush, like my whole grounding comes out through my brush, through my arm and into my brush. But that is, when I teach and when I take groups, I teach people to paint from in here. So paint from the heart, not from what you think it should look like or what something perfect is. Just paint from what's in here, and it doesn't matter how it turns out. It's what is expressed and what the messages you get from that, and how that makes you navigate your life easier as well. Also, when I teach yoga, and particularly, I guess, when I do my own yoga, the pranayama practices that I do are the practices that keep me most grounded. The last 12 months, I lost my mum and I nursed her. And if I didn't have my pranayama practice whilst we were in that sort of space, I think I would have lost the plot. So I am very grateful for all that I have learnt and that I can actually share also with the world.
Yes. And this is the power of embodiment, isn't it? Like, it can be there for you at your hardest times.
Yeah,
because, like,
definitely.
you've created a language and a resource within your own body that you can return to, like a refuge. Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, most
Yeah.
definitely.
I can follow on that, Zoe.
Thanks, Ness.
Yeah, because I think embodiment practices for me has also, kept me sane. I wouldn't be here without it. Okay, so just to introduce myself, I'm Ness Redubla, based in the Philippines. I'm an intuitive healer, and I create, just like Zoe, but you've been doing it for so long. I create spaces for women to self-heal. And right now in this evolutionary journey, I feel I'm here to help Filipino women to heal from generational trauma. and cultural conditioning, so they can, be more empowered and be free. And going into that, because I used my embodiment practices to discover myself. As a child, I felt I was, depressed or always crying all the time. I didn't know how to process all those emotions. And, the first 40 years of my life was really learning about the world. And then after that, okay, how can I undo all of this? How can I unlearn all of it? And I feel there's so much from us that we haven't learned. There's very little books about our culture, about our ancestors. It was all wiped out when Spaniards came and threw away, burned all the written stuff about my ancestors. So embodiment practice has been something that I have to tune in, because I cannot learn it from the outside. It's not being taught. I always have to tune in, come back, and rediscover, okay, what are they teaching me? What are my ancestors trying to teach me right now? And how can I practice this? And how can I teach it as well? So, like all of you, I love all the tools like art and dance. Oh my God, if I just close my eyes, if the thing with embodiment practice is if you're able to really separate yourself, like, and be just a vessel and allow the music to come in and allow whatever movement wants to do with your body, that's really when it comes in. That's really when you're connected up and on the ground. And for me, I didn't even have the word for it. Like, we don't have that. I've only learned it when I, met people like you, because there's very few of us, about, 8 million in the Philippines, probably less than, 1% who practices the spiritual practices that you do. So it's us kind of returning back to ourselves and finding more about who we are from that stance. And embodiment practice is kind of sort of the only way, if you don't have books, right? Knowledge that's outside. So for me, it has been my lifesaver.
Beautiful.
Wow, that's really powerful. Thank you, Ness.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're like a pioneer, hey? Yeah.
I'm sorry, Zoe. Oh, did somebody else want to? I'll come back later. I'm sorry, I jumped in. I didn't hear your instructions properly earlier, Zoe. So I'm sorry for jumping in there. I'll leave it. I'll come back.
No problems. Yeah, you've pretty much been on par. We basically just said share a little bit about yourself, how you came into embodiment practice yourself, and what embodiment means to you.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I've just finished. My name's Karen Burge. I live in Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia. I run one of the biggest cannabis clinics in Australia, but prior to that, I was a spiritual teacher and mentor, and I believe all of my practices and my training from then helped me accomplish what I have here, because it's not government run. We run a cannabis clinic and a church as a cannabis clinic, and we have in the main street of a major city for 8 years and helped over 30,000 people. So it's been a mammoth effort. But yeah, my spiritual practices, my embodiment practices has helped me. My spiritual teacher told me it's about, you have to have a big energy field, but also ground it to to accomplish our missions. And the embodiment practices that we're all sharing here is that's helping us do that. We can't do that without, we can't accomplish our big mission, I don't think, without these practices that we're sharing today. So it's so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
All right. I'll come in and I'll share mine now. I can relate to all of you, and what came up for me, especially this past 2 years, like Joe, I've been practicing Kundalini for almost 2 years now, and what that helped me through, especially these 2 years, 3 years almost now, is actually realizing how resilient I am. Because that's the work of that practice, if you want to go there, of course. It gets you resilient, and that's also part of like knowing how much you have inside of yourself. And on top of that, to resilience is my cold swims. I have never liked cold water until 4 years ago. I started going for cold swims, and now it's second nature. It's so beautiful, and you just feel it all, and you gotta be so in your body to be able to walk into that cold ocean with joy. But how I was guided into finding any type of embodiment practice was from a young age. I remember I've been riding horses my whole life, but at competition I just stopped breathing. Like I held my breath through the whole course, and also dealing with my own emotions in a way of actually getting stuck in my head and just like keeping up the pace instead of coming back into myself. So I was slowly like guided into those practices that help you come back with that, where there is like the yoga asana practice has come in. And what I find is that doing my asana practice with my eyes closed is actually one of the most beautiful practices. You need to like come into your middle to be able to keep your balance and not fall over. So that really for me connects me to my body and get out of my head. But then for things to have fun and to feel alive, I love to dance as well. So I'm really connected to all of you with that. I do believe that there's so many beautiful practices, and something that I want to bring up that's stuck out for me in this coming up to today is that what I've been doing as well has actually been I've been drinking coffee every day, because that is something that for me connects me to my family, because I have been away from my family for the longest period of my life for 3 years, which hasn't been something that I've chosen actively. And for me to stay grounded, I've actually sat with my coffee in the morning and just took my time. I know it's a stimulant, but the ceremony of that and this ritual of that has definitely been a little bit of a way of coming back to me and remembering me, and how I ground myself with family rituals. Yeah.
Yeah, Sophie, I really love what you've shared. I just like to circle back to a few of the things that you said that have sort of inspired me. First of all, you mentioned horses and animals. You know, I think are such beautiful wisdom teachers when it comes to embodiment, because this is the language of animals. They are in their bodies. They are very present to the little nuances that are occurring within other beings' bodies, you know, their body language, the little subtle things, the rhythms. You know, I've got a little dog as well as a big background in horses, and a little dog, you know, I notice like when she reflects back to me when I start moving faster because I need to be somewhere or I've got an appointment, whether it's a Zoom appointment, my body gets faster. And I know immediately she reflects that back to me because she's right by my side. She wants to come too. And that's just one example of how they are often so much more aware of our own bodies than we are of our own. And this is a modern dilemma that we live in. We live in a world which is causing us to be in our heads so often. And part of the reason is because there's a lot of demand on us with multitasking. Now I just realized I'm not on, I'll just pin myself because I'm not showing yet. So there's a lot of demands on us with multitasking, with having to pre-think everything and analyze and protect ourselves mentally and have the to-do list all the time in our minds. And so this practice of coming back into the body in that quite primal, quite animalistic way is very important for us in order to honor that mammalian sort of self that we are actually. We are also mammals, and that tending and being in our bodies is what keeps us in optimum health. And Sophie, you mentioned something else, which was the ocean. And I remember about 25 years ago when I did my rebirthing training, before breathwork had really kind of become as big as it is today. Certainly in my area, there's a lot of breathwork that happens. And in that time, one of the things that we did, we went for a weekend and we did cold water breathing. And one of the tendencies is when we reach something of discomfort is to want to get out of our bodies, to want to disembody and to freak out of our body realms. And, so I just want to speak to that for a moment, that embodiment isn't always sexy. It doesn't always feel nice to be in our bodies. And the reason it doesn't always feel nice is if we've been disembodied for a long time, we can be very out of touch with our own needs and the pathways home to that balanced state of nervous system. So that can be one reason why it's not comfortable, but it's not always comfortable to be in a body, even if we're used to that practice of returning to ourself. And, sometimes that means we need to feel things very deeply, big emotions and, things that are happening in our bodies that we haven't, that we're prepared not to just disconnect from. But in that medicine of coming into our bodies, we have that practice and that ability then of deep listening. And the deep listening can then allow us to respond with wisdom. So we can change things in our lives then, and we can respond to the deep needs that are moving through us. And when that happens, we become that clear vessel that Ness spoke to. We just become that deep listening vessel of receiving and being able to be guided by what's occurring through us. There was one other thing. Sophie, I just wanted to circle back to that practice. We haven't met each other, all of these beautiful women. This is a journey where we're getting to know each other also, which I love, and all of the wisdom that everybody holds. And yeah, just before we got on, Sophie did share in the chat thread that this practice of coffee drinking was something significant to her rhythmic practice in her day. And it really got me thinking, because sometimes in the spiritual worlds we can judge coffee drinking as, a dysfunctional habit. But it got me thinking that what a beautiful thing it can be when we create rhythm in our lives that allows us to lean back and sit into our bodies and be very present to what's occurring. And just that simple practice of having a cup of coffee or whatever your choice of cup is, and to make that this practice that connects you to your lineage and connects you to your sense of home and connection. And we all have this ability to weave these little rituals into our lives to sustain us deeply and give us that practice to sit back into our bodies, to rest into our bodies, to cultivate the presence that we can have when we're in that more inward reflective space. And Sophie, you also mentioned closing your eyes in your practice, your asana practice, and that it's often the eyes are the thing that takes us most out of our bodies. So that can be a beautiful way to come back in by closing down the eyes. Yeah, I want to open out to you all now the question of why is it important to stay grounded through these times that we're in? Why is this important?
Here's Zoe. Or go ahead, Joe.
Oh no. I believe it's so really, really important if we're really wanting to usher in this new earth of creating that life that we truly desire, the peace and harmony, and to stop this turmoil and constant pain and suffering and sort of like being the judgmental person, you know, being in your head and judging what other people are doing, rather than, you know, looking within, because it starts with us. The change needs to start with us, and we need to start embodying what we want to see that's projected out in the world. So if we're not loving on ourselves, how can we love others unconditionally? You know, so I believe that's so crucial because of all the chaos that's going on in the world. It's so much easier to come from love. Like, you can change someone's day just by smiling. You know, just a simple act of kindness, paying it forward. So yeah, I think that's why that's really, really important now more than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, you know, why do we need to be grounded? Because what you addressed before, that, you know, when we're grounded and we coming home to ourselves is part of that connection to the whole, which is what the New Earth dreaming is also about. And also this idea of being grounded means being connected to the earth, and we've become disconnected from the earth. So there's an analogy with disconnection from nature is because we have become so disconnected from this body. So becoming grounded and meeting the earth, and, you know, I mean, just walking in nature is probably the best grounding practices. Lying on the ground, sitting on the ground is the easiest probably the easiest than anything to just to become grounded. So actually coming home to our body is helping us come home to the earth, and that sense of developing new relationship to the earth and new relationship to our own body is very much part of this new way forward. So so that we can just be home here and be home on the planet, and then we'll take care of the planet. So I think that's such a key connection.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like things just flow easier. Definitely. And I feel I even see the 1111 and the triple digits more when I'm in the flow, when I'm following my practices. And the practice that I recorded down at the harbour was about it was the mental and emotional stability, finding that, you know, breathing in peace with our intention, and all these practices that keep our mind out of mischief. Like even like Eckhart Tolle speaks about, you know, if you love the dishes, then it's a meditation for you. And when I read The Power of Now, I thought, you know, just having that cup of coffee, having whatever it is, and putting that intention. I think for me personally, intention is like infinite potential. We didn't have to tell ourselves to brush our hair and brush our teeth to get here today. We had the intention that we were meeting here today, and that, you know, was in alignment with the intelligence, and everything fell into place. Mostly that was a bit wobbly along the way for some of us, a bit hard to connect for me in the end, but yeah, it's so important just that, and this is just such a beautiful tool for our group to offer all these tools. So thank you for asking these questions. And yeah, things just definitely flow for me easier. And over the last few years, there's been a lot of trauma, because not everyone wants us to grow cannabis in our backyard for free and affordable for everybody. So there's been a bit of opposition we've been up against. And I believe when I looked back, I thought, wow, if I had been meditating more and doing my practices more, and because you get busy and that's when you forget. And that's the time where I think, wow, may have been I had continued to muscles, but in saying that, all like a muscle that we've built. So the energy of our connection and our groundedness is there, but going to sort of lay stagnant unless you're continuing to work on it. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. Thank you for asking.
And if you don't have your feet firmly planted on the ground,
I think I've frozen here.
Oh, sorry, Karen. I didn't realize you're still talking. If your feet aren't planted on the earth and your roots aren't firmly,
no, that's good. It's finished.
Earth, then you pretty much, if you just look at it, you're going to get knocked off. So you're going to get catapulted off. So staying grounded for me in my practices helps me every day, helps me stay focused, helps me stay present with myself, helps me communicate, helps me do what I want to do. It helps me get through the day, in fact.
Yeah.
And just knowing that I'm here now and I'm meant to be here right now, to be doing what I'm doing now for myself, but also for others, is really grounding for me to know that I'm in the right place at the right time, I guess. Someone said something about resilience, and I think having these grounding practices helps to build that resilience in our life. Strength and resilience.
Yeah, absolutely they do. Yeah. And this is the thing, you know, we all have to face things that are challenging in our life, and well, it doesn't seem to jump across to me when I do that. Excuse me a second. Yeah, we all have to face things in our life that are challenging, and if we create that sort of habitual practice in our life that can bring us back inside, it can be really helpful when the mind gets busy. How, you know, an access point that keeps us coming back down and just releasing some of that chatter. Because we will explore, maybe as we go along today, is what are some of the reasons that take us out of our bodies, because this is key to understanding how to come back in and presence ourselves. But I just want to open up to anyone else if they wanted to explore, why is it important in these times to stay grounded with these practices?
Can I put in I would like to share a little bit from the from what I've been traveling through, like through the Kundalini practice, and how that is connected to this, and also how different trauma and emotions, which ones of them are actually stored in our root. And so what we've been seeing these past 2 years is actually a lot of emotional debris being released from our root chakras. All of the habits that we've been seeing for everyone, going around emptying shelves and buying toilet paper, all of that comes from actually a release of these emotions. So I do believe that now more than ever, if we have these practices, we can handle that transition a little bit smoother. And I think hopefully that a lot of people are going to start to seek out these practices from all of us, depending on what they're drawn to, so that they can have an understanding of what actually was happening those days when they were like, I need to have 20 toilet paper rolls in my house. But yeah, so that is really connected to how we cultivate the Kundalini energy, how we start down in the base of our pelvic floor. But the next step for that is the only way to actually awake and ascend is to ground first, because you can't work from anything if you don't have that. You need that to bring it up through. There is nothing to take from if you don't. I do believe that's why these practices are so important. Yeah.
Thank you, Sophie.
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you.
I super agree with Sophie. That's really what I feel like. Even for yesterday, the energies were just crazy, and I had to like meditate for like 4 times. And and if we don't have those tools, what are we gonna do when everything's so chaotic outside? What are we supposed to do? And those who have the practices and the tools are so lucky to be able to really ground that. And for many of the people that I encounter, they don't even know what grounding is. Like it's still so new to them. But it's really so basic. I mean, I think it was just Michelle who also said that it's really simple, and we don't like simple, we like complicated, like give me all of that. But it's like, just sit down, breathe, look at the plants, and it just helps us, because the Great Awakening will really get a lot of shit out, and a lot of shadows will come out. And we need those tools to stay in this body and know that while you're connected, you're still in your body, and you're also not so much spiritual. You're just there, but you're not able to connect with people around you. So our grounding reminds us, oh yeah, we're human, by the way. We're not just spiritual beings. We're not yet. But while we're still here, we need to remind ourselves of the tools of what human beings need while staying connected.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'd like to add to that. Thanks for bringing that up, Ness. When you said sit down and read a book, I feel like we're in the day and age where technology is just at our fingertips. We can find ourselves not grounded by being in our heads and looking at, social media and like all this, material that we're just absorbing constantly. And I feel that if we want to stay grounded, sometimes it means putting things down and going, hang on a minute. Okay, why am I thinking this way? Why am I still in my head? What am I afraid to feel, right? Because that's why, which I believe, Zoe, you're going to talk into more, is why we're out of our bodies, because sometimes we're afraid to feel the feelings that are bubbling up to the surface. We're afraid to show that we're vulnerable. We're afraid to show that, hang on a minute, I really don't actually have everything together. But hey, that's okay. Like, we are all in this together. We're all teaching each other. We're all trying to navigate this whole, new way of being, new way of relating, and ushering in this new like community of just caring for each other and being able to like hold hands and be surrounded by women and men and children that really want to embrace this whole diversity of, how to be grounded. Because one way of being grounded may not work for someone. It can, and something else may, like a simple walk in the park, no shoes on. I feel like shoes are the worst invention ever. But just being, and true to yourself, and being vulnerable and open to saying, hang on a minute, I need help. Like, how can I ground myself? Because I know we've all been there. We've all been there once upon a time.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I want to just speak to that a little bit too. I think maybe there was a time in history where we didn't need to speak about grounding. And let's jump me across. We didn't need to speak about grounding because it was maybe something that was part of our way of being in the world. And in today's modern world, we actually have to actively put in place these grounding principles, make sure that we are emptying out, because, like you mentioned shoes, Joe, there's all these things in place that disconnect us without us even consciously realizing. We put rubber between our bodies and our electrical impulses within our whole energy field and the Earth's magnetic pulse, Gaia's pulse. And we also build houses with concrete and up above the ground, and then we put our beds above the ground, and we're hovering in this space that is not connected to the Earth. And there was a time when we didn't live in houses and we laid on the earth, and our pulse, that electrical magnetic pulse of our cells synchronized with the earth. And this was very healing for us, and we're missing that. And when we're not under the moonlight and the starlight and the sunlight to rejuvenate us and bring us back into our primal bodies, then we need to actively seek those spaces. There would have been a time when it was ridiculous to talk about going out and being in nature, have some nature time, please, someone. So this is one thing that I'm really passionate about. It is so simple, and it's only become complicated through the unknowing kind of infusion of all these different things that impact us, like things like Wi-Fi and not being on the ground and connected to the earth. And I also want to talk about technology. I mean, technology can be sacred technology. We can use it to serve us. Here we are now having this, transmission and connecting hearts into the world. And our work, has really changed in that way. But it can also, we need to know and be wise with technology, because it is, especially social media, it is designed to fragment our presence and our awareness, and to have us sort of multitasking in that sense. And science has proven that we don't successfully multitask. We just task switch. It's a deception to think that we can multitask. And it just pulls us out of presence. And so it's up to us to reclaim that and not to be subservient to some of these technologies that have been developed, and to make them, bring back the control so that they serve us rather than us being a slave to them. Yeah, Karina, is there anything you'd like to share about the times that we're in and why these practices really are important?
I think the times that we're in are shifting, and they're shifting differently for everybody. It's quite interesting. I think coming out of a stage of really fairly deep grief for myself, and almost feeling like I'm um, rebirthed myself. It's like I've gone through this passage where my mum passed away, and I've birthed myself back out into the world. Um, I've had to really keep my keep my head down, but keep myself here on this earth so that I didn't just get taken away, because the energy just came in and took me. So I think that it's really important for people to work out what they need to keep themselves grounded, keep themselves here, keep themselves present at the moment. And, just a simple practice of connecting to your breathing can do that for me, and it can do that for others as well. We have our breath, we forget to breathe. And when we shallow breathe, it signals our body that we're in danger. So just connecting and taking a few deep breaths will help people, it helps me stay here, stay present, and lower my energy back down. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
a personal thing, I guess. But yeah, that's how I feel, just breathing, connecting to the breath.
Thank you, Karina. I just want to touch on briefly what you shared about with the dealing with big emotions and loss you mentioned. And for people who have not had the regular practice of coming back to the body and their emotions and their body, the language that wants to play out through their body expression, be it through our breath, through our sound, be it through our movement, in those ways, then people who have those regular practices know the medicine in it. They know that when there's uncomfortable feelings to be felt, that if you feel them and you move them, that they don't stay around. They actually emotion, when you really feel it fully, can't stay in its current static state. It will move and transmute into something else, and will, once it's had its full expression, you'll find yourself being back into your true nature, which is peace and light. If you haven't had that practice of and a safety there to feel what it feels like to breathe more fully and to release your sound and to move your body through the different feelings that are there, then when you first start these practices, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. That's been my experience, that the unleashing of that energy, one can want to contract around it or avoid that. And this is the practice, and so leaning into an embodiment coach or someone who does this sort of work to safely guide you through that can be helpful, because until you develop that language for yourself, until you develop that sense of safety, that it's actually, I am safe sounding, I'm safe moving and feeling these feelings. Yeah, and so that these things can become a refuge for you, and one learns to develop that ability to witness and not get so entangled in the experience that one's having, just to witness the expression and to celebrate it and to honor it for what it is, and then to release it and not cling to it, just to let it move through us. So if anyone wants to share to that, feel free to jump in.
I'll jump in. I think dance is a fantastic tool for that, because often I have people come who've completely lost touch with dance. They haven't danced since they were 17, and the dance, when you start to get in touch with your own dance, emotions come up and things start coming up. But because you're often in a group, the group is an incredibly amazing tool. Like, dancing with other people creates so much safety, and so these emotions start bubbling up. But because you're dancing and moving with others, there's a feeling of safety. And I think that's idea too, that when we are grounded and embodied, we can then start to access those difficult emotions that come up. But because we're grounded, we can hold them better and more easily. And so yeah, the dance is a fantastic tool for that. And yes, I find just sometimes people come to the class, they have never been, and they have a huge experience the first time, because of the fact that it's a group thing. People have danced in groups, since the beginning of time, and it creates a lot of safety to hold big emotions. And suddenly you can be dancing and you start crying, and I think that's the beauty of that's what I think that's what's so powerful about dance, because we work with group energy and we're facilitating group, even if you're completely inexperienced.
I want to touch on that too. Thanks, Michelle. I'm sure, Ness, you'll understand this as well. Like in our ancient cultures, in my Pacific Islander culture, dance and singing was a sort of a rite of passage to express yourself through storytelling. And so there's certain attire, there's certain hand and feet actions, and you're dancing with bare feet traditionally. That was our way of connecting to earth, but also being divinely guided and speaking your truth through movements. And it's such an ancient tradition that it's so watered down now. It's so modernized, and ancient practices where like tattooing of the body, embodying that is also watered down and modernized, and because of like the times that are really, really fast now and everyone's trying to keep up. And it just reminded me that sometimes we just need to be still and remember, like now that I'm remembering in my childhood, we all loved dancing, whether it was traditional or at school disco.
Yeah.
Brings you that enlightenment of like childlike, and bringing that fun back into your body and being present. So yeah, I just wanted to speak on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, one thing that's coming to mind, and I can't remember who, someone mentioned, it might have been you, Ness, around, I can't remember who it was, someone was mentioning sorry, I'll just pin myself again, the spiritual practices, and I wanted to just share a little bit about my journey. I came into meditation very early in life, and it became a passion of mine, and I opened sort of portals of light awareness, and I activated my light body, and I could really travel, and I loved the experience of deep stillness when I'd go into that deep light experience of my intrinsic nature. And it was a very powerful process for me, and I became involved in sort of group meditations and teaching meditation things from quite early, before I was 20 actually, and mid-40s now. And what I found is a certain time doing those practices, it was almost like, and that so much growth and development came from that. But through that time where I focused only on that sort of inner stillness practice, it became aware that there were other areas of my psyche that couldn't be reached through the meditation practice. And that's when I started to get curious about embodiment practices. I first turned to breath work in that time, and I realized that that was there to work on my human body. So I could do all the spiritual practice in the world to work on my spiritual body, and this was fantastic. But then there was still this, like, there was little Zoe, there was mammal Zoe, there was Zoe that didn't process things when I was 2 years old, and my family split up, and there was all this kind of stuff that was in my very human self that needed working on. And that's when I found embodiment practices were very, very helpful, because they allowed all of me to come into a particular frequency, and not just sort of aspects of me. And so I just wondered if anyone wanted to share to that experience of bringing all, because I do feel we've been in a time of great duality on the planet. This is good, this is bad, this is like, it's very black and white, fragmented thinking. I do believe that the time of the Great Awakening is about bringing like us into oneness within ourselves. And that part of that is that oneness with our thoughts, mind and being, and our emotions as well. So there's that integrity between what we're experiencing on the inside, what we're expressing on the outside. I wondered if anyone wanted to speak to that at all.
I could speak to that, Zoe. you reminded me of, there was a point when, because I was feeling so much, that I would rather have just the spiritual practices, like meditate all day, be a hermit, just, stay in my cave and just stay there because it's more peaceful, not having to deal with people, right? And when you have that, and when you felt that, how the peacefulness that comes with just connecting with everything around you that is not physical, there's also that, I don't want to say addicting, but the closest thing to that, like you want that feeling all the time if possible. But when you're interacting with people, you always have to, right? Like what Joe would say, remind yourself again, okay, wait, why am I anxious? Why am I moving so fast? So you go back to that embodiment practice and it makes you more whole. You're not just the practice, you're also this, like the universe, God gave us all of this, and not just the spirit part. So yeah, just like I resonate so much with what you said.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I was going to, sorry, did you want to speak, Karen?
No, it's just beautiful. I just wanted to add one thing that I use a lot, because mine, I think, is more the mental and emotional. I work on the physical with the cannabis, but the mental and emotional, and a practice, gratitude has been such a powerful practice for me. And I do a little visualization where I get people to, write a list of get a book and write a list of the things that they love to do on one side of the page. Because often when I'd ask people that in a session, I'd say, "What do you love to do?" And because we'd gotten so busy in life, everyone had forgotten. And then on the second page, you write gratitude, things you're grateful for, and add to that every night. Because I found that I was waking in the middle of the night worrying. So I thought, well, and then I'd keep waking up and worrying about this same thought, and I'd wake up the next morning, and that thing that I was worrying about never happened. And I love that saying, worrying is using our imagination to create what we don't want. So I started doing my gratitude and thinking about the things I'm grateful for. And even now, if I wake up in the middle of the night and my mind is just all over the place, I'll just continue to repeat, "Thank you, thank you, thank you," by the power of 3. And it just clears my mind, because as someone that's a creator and a master manifester, I've got this 3-story building in the main street of a major city. I've got farms, and 9 years ago, I was homeless. I've manifested this beautiful life for myself, but gratitude has just been such a powerful part of that. And it's something you can do anywhere, anytime. But yeah, waking up through the middle of the night, I'd lie awake for hours. And it was a habit. It was a pattern that I know my mum was like that. I got that from my mum and my nan, all that passed down. But the most important thing I just wanted to add in this for me personally was the power and benefit of adopting that attitude of gratitude, and it keeps our mind out of mischief, like dancing and like doing the dishes and all those things, breathing. It really has been a very beneficial practice for me. So I just wanted to share that also. Thank you. And I love just all these jewels in this whole this hour that we're discussing here is so powerful, and I'm excited that there's people out there that are going to have the opportunity to take all these jewels and implement them into their lives too. It's just beautiful, paying it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Yes, very rich. So we've got about 5 minutes left, or a little less than that. I thought maybe we could finish today's discussion with sharing just a couple of practices, if you haven't already, that have transformed your life, just essentially. And what we'll also do is we'll share in the comments of the Facebook Lives, just so that we may not have time to speak too much about the different specialties that we are offering, and our how people can contact us and connect in with us. But you can share a couple of your transformational practices and just essentially what it is that you are offering, and we'll also write our contact details in the live Facebook thread as well.
Excellent.
I'll start. That was something I was just thinking as Karen was speaking, that one, as it ties to the title of the book, Warriors of Light, harnessing our inner warrior spirit or our spirit animal. And a game that I like to play with my son is called the lava game. And we'll often, and it's great standing in the sun and you're like a tree, but also just like screaming, almost like rewilding, just screaming out whatever the energy that you just want to move out of your body. So we have fun with it. We just say, do you want to play the lava game? And we often do it in the car. So that's a really great way to incorporate your kids into grounding techniques as well in your daily life, so that's what I wanted to share. So thank you everyone for holding space.
Lovely. Thank you
Jo.
So I'll share. So what I like to do is to use my intuitive art and my intentional creativity. So using my page as setting my intention and then just allowing the art to flow and not worrying about creating an image that's going to be something to look at and something to sell, but just finding what comes out of my heart onto my page through my paintbrush. And then I often will get messages from that. And I teach this as well. So I teach intuitive art and also intentional creativity to groups and to individuals. So that to me is probably one of my biggest grounding essences, I guess. Yeah. My partner will always say to me when I come into my art room, which is where I am right now, you're going into your cave. I'll see you tomorrow. So, yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Karina.
I'll share 2 bits. One, very simply, if you're wanting to shift your energy, doesn't matter what you're doing, just get up and have a dance. 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, it'll change your energy. Or get up and move somewhere else. Changes your energy when you move. And the other one I want to share is I run a Tuesday morning class every Tuesday morning, and we always begin this class with just sitting and bringing our attention to the breath. And this is such a beautiful practice. You just sit there and you just bring your mind and your awareness to the breath coming in and the breath going out. And really this connection with the breath, which is with us every moment of our life, we just don't even know it exists. And it's a really powerful way of connecting, first of all, grounding yourself, and then just also coming into your healing source. And yes, just literally following the wave of the breath. And all you have to do is literally with your attention, follow it as it comes in and rises, breathing in new energy. And as it flows out, you release it. So it's like you're emptying all the stress and tension, and it's going out into the sea. And it's just a very great grounding technique that is a beautiful, simple practice.
It reminds me of the inner dance, Michelle.
Yes,
watching the
inner dance. It is. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share there?
Well, just a quick one, Zoe. Whatever you're doing, be all there. That's it.
Yes, very powerful. Yep. Be here now.
Be here now.
Yes.
Where is life? Right here now. That's another Eckhart Tolle one.
Yeah. Yes. That's where it's alive and where there's potency. Now, Sophie, do you want to say anything before we wind up?
Well, I feel like there's a lot of similar things that I was going to share that has been shared. I do believe that for me, the transition or how I actually started working with that grounding and embodiment actually came from when I started doing my cold swims. And everything that comes through that and what all of those cold exposures does to your system. So that has definitely been a major change for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that ties in beautifully with what I would like to share to conclude, and that is that, you know, as much as it is a very important thing to, you know, a big value of mine is to create safe spaces for people to be able to do this deeper work. I have also, you know, on the flip side, or maybe as well as that oneness there, I have witnessed that when we are prepared to go to those places within us that are a little edgy or are a little bit uncomfortable, like Sophie, you mentioned, you know, externally, the cold water experience and how that is for your internal world. You know, when we can do that, all of those places that we are moving away from and resisting being with, be here with, you know, that. If we can start to take time in our lives to go to those places, then that is where our greatest medicine is, and our greatest release and our greatest healing, because wherever we've got our energy stored and bound up, you know, there's all that potential, all that potency that's just sort of stagnant and bound up. And so if there's practices that you can bring into your life to just slowly bring yourself closer to those areas and just free them and feel them and loosen them a little bit to be lived and released, you know, those growth edges, then I would say, you know, go for that. So yeah, so my love, just in a sentence, is I work with women and men. Elias, who's also in this group, will be speaking tomorrow and Friday and Thursday as well, with different topics. So we do masculine feminine work together. We do ceremonial work, embodiment work, and sacred journey retreats. But on a feminine level, those areas that we've learnt to move away from, so the womb work, the yoni work, the coming into our body in safe ways and learning how to free our sound and expression, is often being closed down in the feminine. So re-accessing those places is work I love to do, and the feminine embodiment training, you can check that out on my website. I'll put that in the comments too. Soul Arts. Thank you so much, everybody. All of your powerful words and your sharing. So appreciate you all. And for all those who are listening to the replay, thank you for joining us. Please comment below, ask any questions of us, reach out to us personally. It's an absolute honor to be on this Warriors of Light journey with you all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.